I was feeling so depressed, I had anxiety, and I had to still go to work and look normal.
And sometimes you're just thinking, why I'm doing this? You know, you're going home, you're just like, why?
So you're constantly running people into the ground.
If I just keep going, it'll go away, which I knew damn well it wouldn't.
Our managers joke about taking it in turns to break down. You know, you can have your week this week, but I'll have the week next week where it's my turn to break down.
In 1989, I was at the Hillsborough football disaster, and I was actually in Leppings Lane, and I was 18 at the time. You know, going to a football match, you think, you know, it's got to be a great day. Then, you know, disaster unfolded, and I find it difficult, the fact that I know I climbed over men, women, and children to get out, and I know how lucky I was. And you know, as an 18-year-old, you put a lot of that behind you. And then things then start gradually catching up. So I then had to go back and relive those moments and relive my statements. Then there was the culmination of other events 2 years ago, where my wife got diagnosed with a bone tumour. My dad was then going to have a therapy for cancer, prostate cancer. And I thought I could cope with this, and I started throwing myself into work. I could sense my wife was getting worried because I was spiralling into, being very, very quiet. You know, I wasn't engaging with my family much. I wasn't engaging socially with friends, and I was working really, really long hours. And if I'm honest with myself, I probably realised there was something wrong, but I didn't want to admit the truth. You know, I was spinning many plates, and I started putting that mask of pretense up, whereby convincing myself I was okay. And if I was getting asked, you know, are you struggling? I'd say, no, I'm fine. And over time, those masks then started to fall down, and I couldn't really cope. So that night, I attended my own funeral. And I know that sounds really, really up there, but in some strange way, it felt right. And I know that sounds very selfish, but I felt at peace. I felt at rest. I needed rest. I was physically and mentally exhausted. So I got up one morning, I got dressed, and with the sole intention that I was going to go take my own life. And why or how, I don't know. My wife woke up and stopped me. And at that point then, that was when I realised I needed help. And for me to taking those 2 steps forward and saying the 3 words, I need help, will be the most important steps and words I probably will ever take again. My wife literally just grabbed hold of me, and at that point I told her everything around how I was feeling. So this is myself and my wife Belinda. I'll have been about 18, 19, so that'll have been just after Hillsborough. So that's when we first more or less got together. We both worked at Barclays Bank. And I don't think Belinda would appreciate me showing this photo because it is a very, very old photo.
I own a business called Welcome Independent Living, set up 6 years ago, based out of Hebden Bridge. We deliver domiciliary care to elderly and vulnerable people. Got workforce of about 120 staff at the moment, about 110 carers, doing about 500 care calls a day, 150,000, 160,000 care calls a year, up and down the hills and valleys of Hebden Bridge and the surrounding areas. It's mind-blowing, I think, the number of hard-working people, particularly women in this locality, that absolutely maxed out with anxiety and stress and emotional upheaval in just trying to keep things together and put food on the table. examples of that would be, I went outside last week. Two carers had, I know, just received their rotas, and both of them were crying. So you've received your rota for the week, and they've looked at it, seen how many calls they've got, where they're working, and a couple of difficult customers that they're working with, yeah. And you shouldn't go to work and be in a position where you're crying because of the work that you've been asked to do. And what kind of a world do we live in? That's mental.
I did domiciliary care for 2 years, and then I decided to move forward and be a support worker in this Silver Birches care home. On the phone, you know, when you count in steps, it's from 25,000 to 35,000 steps a day. Imagine working for 2 weeks in a row, I have day no off. You running from one house to another, you need to be there in time, you don't like to be late, and some people doesn't like you to be early or late. Well, I struggled with a few people who used to say to me, speak English, you foreigner, you know, and you have to just take it on the chin. And I am speaking English. No, I don't understand what you're saying. I was like, okay, then I'm not saying anything. And then, you know, I'm trying to make as a joke and smile, and, you know, but you do have things like, get off me, blah, 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 shouting, you know, and you just take it normal. But the thing is, some people can't really help it. You know, it's not because they want to be violent to be, or physically or whatever, no, because they can't help it. It's a part of their illness. And some people just being rude, very rude, you know. I don't want to talk to her, she's a foreigner. You know, it's lots of racism, lots of racism. But yeah, you have to take it on the chin all the time. You it's upsetting you, yes, deep down it's upsetting you, try not to think about it, and sometimes you're just thinking, why I'm doing this, you know, you're going home, you're just like, why?
And the thing that I personally struggle with is that I'm a party to that, yeah. I contribute to people's poor mental health on a daily basis by running the business that I do. So again, if we're doing 160,000 care visits this year with 110 carers up and down every day, front page of the Daily Mail headline waiting to happen kind of thing, right? If I'm in full control of that, right, I'm kind of just about all right. But do you know what? I'm never in control of it, not fully, and neither are my managers, and neither are my carers.
I start switching off my phone on Saturday and Sunday when I'm off. I'm just switching off my phone, nobody can contact it, only because I can't. I work 12 days down a row, and they asking you to work more, and you're just like, I can't. I physically cannot do it. I left only because I got very tired, and my legs start really start being in pain. I had to end up go to hospital. I did steroids injections to my feet because I had so much pain, walking up and down in the cold, in the wet, in every weather. I don't drive, you see, so I have to walk, and I just got too tired. I just so tired.
On that morning, I spent time at home with Belinda, and the strange thing is, I went into work that day, and people will say to me now, how on earth could you go into work that day? But I was brought up with a strong work ethic, and the ethic of, unless you've got a broken arm and it's a visible illness, then you would go to work. And even then, on that morning when I was in crisis, because I'd not got something visible for people to see, I thought the right thing was to go into work. And I told my boss exactly what had happened to the lead up to that morning, and also with the what was on my mind and what was troubling me. And I literally broke down. My line manager said at that time, "Martin, we will get you back to where you was." And I thought it was a statement that would never come true, but work absolutely kept their promise and got me back to where I was. I think people have been able to resonate with the fact that if this can happen to Martin, this could happen to anyone. And that's one of the reasons why I asked to help and go into the role that I've now got, so I can try to support some of these colleagues and try to support them in the fact of the way I got support, it may also help you.
I've been within the telecoms industry since leaving college around about 20 years ago. So for me personally, I noticed due to factors that were going on outside of work, my personal life became very, very challenging. When things started to come crashing down, the way that I initially dealt with it is I asked work and certain key people around me to keep me very, very busy, which I felt at the time, rightly or wrongly, was going to be a good thing to keep me busy and distracted from what was going on in my personal life. However, it wasn't too long before I realised that the added pressure was just completely too much for me.
I've had a mental health condition since I was a child, and so consequently all my working life. As a child I developed I think agoraphobia, which is a fear of leaving the safety of home, which affected my school life. I was off school for 18 months, and it also affected my confidence. When I got into my working life at proper, I started working for Sainsbury's in '83, but I still had this background problem with anxiety and depression, and I would have repeated episodes of that throughout. At that point it was take the antidepressants, have some time off, go back to doing what you were doing and wait while it happens again, basically. Although at the time you don't realise that that's what's happening. If I'm triggered and I'm anxious, I can be overwhelmed and emotional. I can be angry and really angry, to the point of I've been asked to leave places because I've been so angry they've been frightened they're going to punch somebody.
I work as a homeschool liaison officer in a local primary school in Halifax, and there have been many times that I've gone through extremely turbulent, traumatic situations. I've continued to go to work because I'm the type of person, work attendance is important to me. And I've sat and thought, I wish my employer would create a bit more of an understanding environment for me to approach them. And there were times that I would struggle to keep myself normal in front of everyone at work, in front of my colleagues. I couldn't allow myself to be seen as not coping. There were times I'd cry, quietly cry, and then calm myself down, go back to my desk and act normal. And at the end of a day like that, I would come to my car and just burst into tears. I had to release it all because it was like a cage. I'd bottled everything up. And I'd think, there's no point telling anyone because nobody's going to understand. You need to do your duties. If your duties are affected, your employer's not going to be happy with you. So you're going to have more issues on your plate. So I'd drive home and just cry before I get home and then calm myself down. Come inside my house and crash on the sofa and just sleep. I'd sleep because my energy levels were so down. So I think that's some of the effects of being emotionally upset, emotionally disturbed by your issues, where you can't sort of release them or say, look, I need help.
One of the reasons why you try not to say anything about it is people go, oh well, we all feel like that. Do we? And it really, there's times it's very dismissive. It's seriously not listening to the person. Yeah, so as I've said earlier, because we've got this heightened trigger for anxiety, what might seem like a triviality to somebody, an ordinary person, can be a massive trigger for somebody with anxiety. So yeah, you might have that, you might be in that situation, but you don't have the reaction that myself or somebody else dealing with anxiety will have.
I think some of the businesses that I've worked for are very hierarchical, and what goes with hierarchy is maybe not as much nurture as there could possibly be, you know, at various different levels. And I think that sometimes that's at the detriment of what the company's actually trying to deliver.
I'm a great believer now, it's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. If you put your hand up and say, I'm struggling. And, you know, when I took those 2 steps forward and said those 3 words that one morning, I absolutely see that now as strength, not weakness. And it is easy, but yet it's really, really difficult. And unless we create the right atmosphere and platform for people to put their hand up and take those steps forward, then, you know, we still need to try and encourage that and create the right place and the right environment for colleagues to, you know, to be given that support and that platform to say that they need help and support. When I took on the role at the beginning of the year, I said to my director, I want to do things differently around the mental health agenda. Rather than give colleagues training or point them in direction of training on the PC, then put a tick in the box to say that I've done that, is I want it to be intuitive and I want the colleagues to be engaged with the mental health agenda. So over 2 or 3 months I did a bit of research and found that singing creates that positive mental well-being from an individual's perspective. So I came up with a proposal and I went to see my director and said I'd like to create a choir amongst all our 5 core sites. And within 5 minutes, I got the funding approved to launch TuneIn. So that's now been going for the last 6 months, and we thought we'd have 20, 30 colleagues taking part, but we've got over 400 colleagues taking part across the whole country. And now we've got to culminate it in the end of year performance.
Hi, so my name's JJ, and a few months ago I had a head injury and it affected me like a stroke. So it affected my movement, it affected my cognitive thought, it affected my balance, it affected everything about me. And I was contacted by Martin to say, we're doing a tuning, do you fancy coming and singing with us? Because I know you can sing. And I said, well, I've had this injury, and and he said, well, come along, why don't you see how it's going? So yesterday I was signed off. So I don't have to go to see my neurologist doctor anymore. So that's good. And she said, what you're doing well. So yeah, being here has been part of it. Personally, my productivity on a Wednesday is far better with coming here. And I look forward to coming here because I know that this afternoon, if I had a problem, I'd be able to solve it dead easy. Because my mind just organises it better. And that is just by coming to sing. It's weird, isn't it?
We've created what's called a mind space room. So colleagues can come, if they're feeling a bit overwhelmed at the desk, they can come away, take some time to regather thoughts and get some support. So we've got very support literature within the room. So it's just an opportunity where they can to get themselves away from the workplace and just regather their thoughts if they're feeling just that way inclined. So one of the comments that's been placed in the room is just being to visit the mind space room and take the opportunity to have time away from pressures of work. Bravo for whoever thought of this idea to support our colleagues. You need to see more mental support like this within our organisation. Just visit to the room as a mental health first aider. How wonderful. I think this can really make a difference. Excellent concept. So as you can see, it's really making a difference to colleagues. Something so simple is making a difference to them when they need it.
I work in a school and we always encourage everybody to praise the children and how well they're doing and raise their confidence and their self-esteem. And I went through a long period where the staff never got that. The adults who work with these children never got that. And I always used to think, that helps me when my manager or a colleague says, well done, that was great, I really appreciate that. It means a lot. It just boosts your confidence.
Most of what we do is good communication, helpfulness, friendliness, having an ethos where there isn't a blame culture. So when people get things wrong or when people break down, that it's a supportive kind of management and kind of colleague network around them.
I always think about it as, you know, an engaged and happy member of the team is worth their weight in gold. So if that means that they feel that the company is supporting them through difficult times, I think those individuals you'll find will probably bounce back from the difficulties with a vengeance.
The adjustments that need to be made generally probably won't cost anything, but it will require flexibility, because this is how we do it, doesn't fit with us guys. We just need small adjustments and support. I mean, the support is massive. You've got to have somebody there that you can trust, that you can go and say, you know what, I'm not feeling great today. If it's a half-hour conversation, if that half-hour conversation allows that person to stay in work and continue to be able to be at work rather than a build-up that will eventually end in a long-term off sick, it's a win-win, isn't it?
I know a few people who left job only because they couldn't do it anymore. They're not being appreciated. And it's hard when somebody not telling you done very good job, well done. It's very hard. That's very important, you know. So that's it. That's what, nothing else to say.